You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House. You're watching Worldview 2, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. It is Monday. It is June 2nd. I am just kind of surprised. I mean, it's just so quick that we're into June. We're in the second half of the year, right? I know June is really the sixth month, last month of the first half, but to me, we're quickly approaching the second half of the year. It's just amazing to me. All right. I guess as I get older, time flies. I wouldn't think that would be the case, but I hear that's the case. Must be. So we thank you for joining us. This is the Tamara Scott Show. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, blessing time with your family, maybe getting to see some family members and some sport activities, whatever that may be. And I hope you had a great place to worship on Saturday night, Sunday, whatever you do that, but that you took time to worship the God mentioned in our Declaration of Independence, the God that gave providence and protection over this nation. And so, all right, we help you when the headlines hit home. And today we're going to talk with our friend, Dr. Peter Breggin, world-renowned psychiatrist, whistleblower in his own field years and decades ago. So it shouldn't be such a surprise to anybody when he was a whistleblower and when we were dealing with the COVID. I've got the book right here, the COVID book that he wrote. Then, to my knowledge, this was the first book out besides Klaus Schwab's book. Klaus Schwab being the guy who helped orchestrate, supposedly, the whole scandemic pandemic. So he, of course, was predicting what he planned to take place, according to World Economic Forum. But this one is by Peter Breggin and Ginger Breggin, and they were coming at it from the other side of trying to protect people and getting information. They were the first to name people when they talk about the predators and we are the prey. They named people. Good morning. And incredibly bold. Research, footnoted, always great information. And I would say if you don't have one of these yet, I think just to have in your library, if you're interested in research, because in time we're going to want to look back on some of this. So I like having things like that to look back on. Dr. Peter Breggin joins us every Monday, and we're thrilled to have him today. Let me just go quickly to the first photo, Reagan, if we can. The first headline, I better catch up on that. Over the weekend, I'm just going to briefly mention, in Colorado, a suspect is in custody after what the FBI is calling a targeted act of violence during a peaceful march in support of Israel hostages at the outdoor Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado on Sunday. Witness said he was making makeshift flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails and throwing them at people. And so far we hear 8 people were injured. So truly sad, tragic. The suspect's name is identified as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon. FBI special agent in charge is Mike Malchalik, and said Sunday evening. Solomon was allegedly heard yelling "Free Palestine" during the attack, according to the FBI agent. So it appears to be a clear and targeted act of violence, and it's being investigated as an act of terrorism right here in America. Very, very concerning. That was CBS News reporting. You can look that up. Tragic. And I'm hearing of one very violent event that took place over the weekend, another terrorist type attack, but I'm not finding any information. And I was told you won't find information that's being buried. So we'll look around on that, maybe report back on that. I've told you before, I'd rather be correct than first, right? So we'll look about that. All right. So Reagan, if you can put up that first video, please. A little bit of lightheartedness here, but actually a little bit of logic as well. The best way to stop the next pandemic is to arrest the people who started the first one.
Oh, God.
I'll just leave that with you. I heard Dr. Breggin, I heard your response. But it just, I'll just leave that with you, the viewers, to decide. All right. So, Dr. Breggin, first let me welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for your love and support in these difficult times. Folks, every month, every first and third Monday of the month, I go into overdrive to get ready for this show, and we it's surprising how much work we end up putting into each one, and it's because I value you so much and your commentaries on whatever I'm talking about, which are always brilliant. And today is no exception because some really bad stuff is going on that's not getting properly or fully covered in even the conservative and the health freedom movement. So we'll
Yeah.
be diving into that today. But I think you have a film you want to show first, a
I do.
video.
I'll play a couple of videos first. And that's why, folks, I keep reminding you of this book, COVID-19 and the Global Predators, We Are the Prey, because Dr. Breggin and Ginger Breggin were the first to uncover a lot of this, even on the show with me. He would say things that were just a little far out there that nobody else was talking about. And here we're going to circle back today and prove true what he was suggesting as far as a number of deaths from some of these injections that nobody else was talking about. So, all right, let's go first to video 2. This is Stu Peterson's network, Stu Peters Network, and he's interviewing Nicholas Hulscher, if I'm saying that correctly, Hulscher, from the McCullough Foundation. And so let's just go very quickly to this little snippet if we can. They were talking about the fueling of the collapse of global infertility, the global infertility collapse. And they were hoping that things might have remained normal after folks got the injections, but here we go. Listen up.
Two brand new studies that have come out in the past 2 weeks that reveal that our public health agencies, in compliance, in lockstep with the biopharmaceutical complex, has destroyed the ability for humanity to create new life across the world. And so we did see this in a rat study that just came out. They injected the rats with mRNA. It destroyed 60%, over 60% of their primordial follicles. So this is the finite egg supply of women, does not regenerate. So those whose egg supplies have been destroyed will have a very difficult time having successful conception rates. And that is now seen in a human study with 1.3 million people analyzed. They found a 33% reduction in successful conception rates among vaccinated women. So they have destroyed they have basically have, based on this evidence, conducted population control operations, and they are still doing so.
Intentionally.
Okay, and I want you to hear that last line again. Based on evidence, they have conducted population control operations, and they're still doing so. And if you go, and I've got that on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page, you can have a link to go watch that interview. And then there's a great article beneath it, and you can click on that article and see the full article, which has a lot of images, of good graphs, and great information on this particular issue. And we're hearing still concerns from folks on miscarriages, first trimester miscarriages, the numbers in which those escalated compared to others. So Dr. Breggin, anything else you want to add to on that particular video?
We have known from very early on when data began to come out against the wishes of the drug companies about the process by which the mRNA vaccines were specifically attacking the ovaries. They also attack the testicles, but in a much less powerful way. They have an affinity, literally, for the ovaries. You find some of the highest concentrations there of the spike protein. So this has been known for a long time. There was another good presentation about it, and some more, another good study, an animal study. But James Thorpe, for example, was talking about my friend and colleague and very active on your network, was talking about this years ago. And there are population studies in Europe, and in general, the more that a country is being vaccinated, the lower its fertility rate is becoming. So these things are known and simply ignored. And when they get raised, they disappear into the black hole of the CIA and the government control over the media and over everything we do. And in my case, what I've been hammering at from the very, very beginning was that the reports on death from the vaccine came very early. They were early recognized by a British team that put a paper up on the internet about it, an excellent paper that never found a formal publisher to review it. And of course, my book sold, thanks to Ginger, about 160, our book, 160,000 copies. We did not get reviewed hardly anywhere. We got a positive review in Goodreads and one or two other places. But the way of ignoring this is quite enormous because still the biggest issue remains that the spike protein kills people. And there was an 81 times increase in the first year of deaths reported to the CDC, over 10,000 deaths reported to the CDC from this spike protein directly related to it. The reports of death had the particular specific pattern of being most in the first couple of days and then tailing off, just like you expect when there's causality. Every possible criteria for causality was met, that this drug, was being reported of killing over 10,000 people, which generally would mean that you gotta lift that 100 times up to 1 million deaths that are actually occurring, because you only get 1 in 100 under normal circumstances reported of a serious event. So if 3 or 4 people put in an event, about myocarditis, you're looking at 100 times very likely. Well, in this case, it's the doctors were told, we'll take your license away if you even talk about a possible problem with the vaccines. The fact that any healthcare people, and these were mostly healthcare people, that any healthcare people were putting in reports of death was amazing. So it's probably more than 100 to 1 because you're suppressing the health profession from even reporting any bad findings about the vaccine.
Right.
So
Right.
we're in the middle of an epidemic. We've killed at least 2 million people in the first year. I think it's well over that, actually, because of the suppression on reports. And nobody hardly ever starts out a discussion of vaccines and says this first, when it's the most important thing. And you'll notice that same pattern with the gentleman that you were showing speaking. He's showing off, about he's got this stuff, but it's not new. And he isn't starting off and saying, don't forget, it's already demonstrated to be killing people.
Well,
So
I think they do. I think they do get into that in that video, and then I'll put up some other videos as well on the Tamara Scott
good. Well, that's great if they get into
Yeah.
that later on.
Yeah, and then there's another article called "The Shot Heard Around the Year, Around the World," and of course, "shot" being a pun, but a play on words. But this one is part 2, and written by Karen Miller on Substack. But it says 5 years later, a plethora of data is available to expose what is perhaps the most evil and devastating impact of COVID-19. And I know this is timely for many of you because I just got questions about this morning from folks. Dr. Thorpe mentioned a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which claimed 12.6 miscarriage rate following COVID vaccination. However, Dr. Thorpe pointed out that if you isolate the data for women vaccinated in the first trimester, the miscarriage rate increased to 82%, which is approximately the rate of miscarriages produced by abortion drugs. So that again fits into
Brilliant.
depopulation operation, right? This is tragic news for families who are trying to conceive, as our video just previously was talking about. What is it, 33% lower rate of conception, or had decreased by that amount. And then there's even more on this too, and I don't know. Pfizer study recently revealed a whopping 420% increase in congenital abnormalities, congenital abnormalities, and development delays in newborns linked to the COVID-19 vaccines. Yes, I've had people asking about the health of a child. And so, Dr. Breggin, I don't know. Someone asked me, would it matter whether it was just the female or the male? I think having either parent vaccinated adds to the risk.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Time-wise, we need to go to our first break. We'll be right back. We have more information, and we'll stay tuned with Dr. Peter Breggin. He's going to give you the concerns that he was first on so many warnings early on. So he's got new concerns of what's coming from the FDA, a new plan. So we'll talk to him. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
And thanks for watching. And one of the things we offer you on this show is our little sachet, the Bella Grace. You can go to Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com, Tamara.BellaGraceGlobal.com. You can see this little sachet with the elixir of collagen, cat's claw, and astaxanthin. Together, these three ingredients are incredibly productive and effective. And we got the award, this little packet got the award in 2022 for cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. Best of all is what many of you have noticed and written in and talked about, whether it's better joint health, improved mobility, improved immunity, improved stress management, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, and gut health, or helping with the dry eyes, alleviating computer vision syndrome, helping with depth perception. So another great way, things that you have noticed, but then there's the fun, the ones I call the fun helps. Firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, healthier hair, and better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those last ones, right? It helps with your confidence, and it helps you as well when you're out speaking and help fighting on the front lines, which is what we want you to do. That's why we tell you about these products. When you go to Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com, you'll also see a lot of their other products like their skincare system, another very helpful, very soothing line, and you can find more information again at Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. Best thing for me, it comes to the door. I don't have to go to the store. And if you subscribe, you don't have to worry about running out. It arrives when you need it. All right, I'm talking with Dr. Peter Breggin, and we are talking about just the issues that were still coming to light that they've denied or oppressed or suppressed. I mean, Dr. Breggin, here, you're so good to come on this show. Even Stu Peters on his article said, on his interview said, we are being suppressed. This is not in the mainstream media. This is only on social media or digitalized media. But we just talked about the interview he did with Nicholas Holscher, I think is his name, from the McCullough Foundation. We've seen this several places. It was also, again, reiterated in this heard shot around the world. 80% of women supposedly got the injection. 80% of women. I assume this is in America. 60% will have a 60% reduced, or what we would say a destruction of the eggs. And then 33% reduced successful conception rate. All right. So, Dr. Breggin, we're going to go to another video very quickly, but is that why they're pulling back on now promoting this for healthy women and pregnant women? Because they've already achieved such a deficiency or a deficit in conception?
I think they saw it as a battle they couldn't win.
Okay.
Once Jim Thorpe got his data out in Congress and elsewhere, and by the way, I'm really proud to be a colleague of Jim and to have be on his team, his publishing team for at least one of his articles. We've known each other a long time. He's a very incredibly honorable man. I think it just made it a battle you couldn't win, and so they backed off from it. But they have, if anything, upped their murder intentions, their population control. And I am so glad you began with that. I didn't know in advance you were going to begin with population control videos, but it fits perfectly into what I'm saying today.
It
Now,
does. It does. Now, you just segued me into the second video I want to show, and then we'll come back
okay.
and let you take it from there. Okay. So let's go to that second video. This is a Dr. David Martin. So this took place supposedly March 6, 2025. It is a Citizens Health Inquiry in Edmonton, Alberta. And let's start at the beginning, Reagan.
The fact of the matter is, as much as it's painful for the public to hear these words, the intent explicitly was to actually decrease the population. Not to control the population, to actually literally decrease the population. Now, if you think about Bill Gates' estimates of between 700 million and 1.2 billion people that need to be reduced off the face of the planet, I have said on numerous occasions, if you look at the downstream exposure risks to the toxins that were injected, it is reasonable to expect that they may have achieved their objective with what ultimately becomes relatively rapid-acting cancers. We now have the proliferation of what we call turbo cancers, which was a term that we now have normalized, but it certainly wasn't normal 5 years ago. We now know that it's very fashionable for now young people to have myocarditis and other cardiovascular disease, something that we did not have 5 years ago. We are now being told that's because of environmental changes. Obviously, there's not a single environmental condition that is altered other than the injection of a known toxin, which actually was targeting as early as 1992, targeting heart tissue. So we're sitting there pretending not to know why, even though we do know why. But the fact of the matter is, they actually stated in 2014 that this was about investors responding if they see profit at the end of the process.
Now, you got a little bit of snippet there. I have that on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page. If you want to hear about the investors, and he has goals, the investors wanted to reduce population and make money while they did it. You can go to the Tamara Scott Show and you can see that video with Dr. David Martin at the Citizens Health Inquiry. All right, so Dr. Breggin, Bill Gates estimates 700 million and 1.2 billion people needing to be reduced from the planet. They got a little jump on it, didn't they? When I asked, maybe they're happy and they're going to back off their numbers on giving this vaccination to pregnant women. I should have known this group will never be happy with a reduction in the population. They will always continue to try and decrease it.
Oh yeah, they have a long way to go before they can really use the resources just for their own ends, however they want to live forever and all their other schemes that they want to do with transhumanism. It's for themselves. And literally, I'll say it, folks, but listen, they're willing to kill us. They're willing to enslave us. And we're seeing that before Trump was elected for the second time, we had an administration that was destroying us and turning us eventually into wage slaves by flooding the country with uneducated human beings who didn't really understand America's freedom principles and responsibility principles, and who were just going to keep if they even allowed a vote, voting us into a banana republic and then under communism and other forms of totalitarianism. It's a part of a large globalist plan that I talk about a lot now on our Substack, Peter and Ginger Substack. I want to focus in on one specific thing that's going on right now with the approval of a new vaccine by Moderna, a new mRNA, same old business. And I want to present something that sounds really dumb to anybody who's listening. But this is what the FDA is doing. Suppose you saw an ad that said, Lucky Strike is as safe as any other cigarette. Enjoy Lucky Strike. Sound bizarre to you? Or drink our bourbon. It's as safe and healthy as any other bourbon. Or our marijuana. Well, they have now approved an mRNA vaccine literally on the basis of, hey, we compared it to our other mRNA vaccines, and it's as good as the other ones, as safe as the other ones, maybe a little tiny bit safer than the other ones with one group of people. Now, the FDA, going way back, bowed down to the vaccine lobby and allowed it to do away with the most fundamental scientific principle in researching drugs and vaccines, which is to have a control group. In a control group, you don't compare whiskey to drinking bourbon. You compare whiskey to drinking water, or sugar water maybe, but that's not so good for you. So you compare it to just water. A placebo is an inert. It doesn't do anything. Its only effect is psychological, that you think you're taking something that may help you. Well, on May 20th, the FDA announced it was no longer going to allow that, and they were going to require placebo studies in the future. On May 31st, 11 days later, they announced that a new study was finally finished by Moderna for a new COVID vaccine, and it's the same exact kind of process as the other dangerous, deadly mRNA vaccines. And in the fine print, it turns out they did not do a placebo study. This is the FDA. They let them go right on through, comparing it to earlier mRNA deadly vaccines. So if people died, they wouldn't even notice it because the people were dying in a placebo. This is bizarre. And in addition to that, and I just found this morning, and I'll probably look down and just read this a little bit, but the FDA is under a bold headline saying advisory committee, which I raced to look at, said that it didn't refer the new vaccine by Moderna to an advisory committee because it, quote, did not raise concerns or controversial issues. This is how evil our institutions are. And this is going on under the nose of Bobby Kennedy. It's going on under the nose of all the people appointed by our president who should know better. It's disastrous. Now, who is it good for? It's not good for the people of America. It's going to kill people. And now, as you've been amazingly demonstrating, it's going to further sterilize people in this country and around the world, because this sets precedents for around the world. But this is the big news in the financial papers. The Moderna stock has gone up. Moderna was collapsing with people because people were getting dissatisfied with the vaccines, and fewer people were taking the vaccines. And now they've got a whole new push. Now, the final thing is, who have they authorized now to take the Moderna vaccine? Well, it's the general proposals that have been made, which is that anybody from age 12 on up to 65 can have this, will be given this vaccine if they have a second problem. It's not clear whether that's going, at this point, I don't think it's clear whether that's going to include pregnant women, because almost every pregnant woman has a problem under the definitions of FDA of either some hypertension or some water retention or some weight gain. It's they
Diabetes.
get
They're gestational
diabetes.
diabetes that
Yeah,
have
yeah. Thank you. Yes, that's right. And that's a favorite for giving these. Oh yeah, she got about diabetes. Got to give her the vaccine. So I'm waiting to see how that comes out. But right now, essentially, if you can find a vulnerability in anyone from age 12 to 65, you can give them the vaccine, and they're the people who are going to die most likely from it because they're already sick. It's not like the vaccine goes in and helps your sickness. It goes in and ruins your immune response. That's why you get these cancers and the myocarditis and so many other things is largely because the immune system's being hurt, if not really broken down. And in fact, we know that the rate of infections with COVID actually tends to go up after the vaccine. And it's that way with all other infectious diseases, or most that they've measured, they go up after the vaccine. So we are in a bizarre killing machine, and it's obvious. There's no questioning it. Well, go ahead and question it. I mean, now I've got a up on my website, and I think you have it there. It's this huge document that
we're
is
going to go to it. We're going to go to it in just a minute, but I think
okay.
first take our break half past the hour. To everybody out there, I'm talking with Dr. Peter Breggin. We will go to some of those graphs and give you the visuals on it when we get back, along with more information. Stay tuned. The Tamara Scott Show. And a couple more of our products we offer for you because everyone's different, different tastes, different lifestyles, and different reactions. So we want you to have the product that you think helps you the most in strengthening your body, building up your immunity, and just staying strong and being able to focus on those things you need to protect your family and fight for our freedom. So the lavender is for ladies. This is the Numi lavender. It doesn't have any hormonal supplements in it, but if you are on hormonal supplements, it's recommended that you might just check with your doctor just to make sure that there is no issue there. Now, the blue is for everybody. It is anybody over 18. This has the glutathione in it, something I didn't even know about until I learned about this product. The glutathione is very good in helping over 400 cellular functions in your body. It's an antioxidant. It also helps detox forever metals, heavy metals, forever chemicals, and graphene oxide. Graphene oxide, we're not talking about so much today. We might be talking about the spike proteins and the dangers there, but graphene oxide was one of those ingredients that we learned about when many people were coerced and forced to take those injections we're discussing today. This helps detox graphene oxide, heavy metals, forever chemicals, as well as glyphosate. Glyphosate is another chemical or an ingredient in ag products. And if I mention the name, you would certainly recognize it. Might be something you even use on your lawn. But there is concerns over potential links to glyphosate and cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. This helps detox glyphosate out of your system, that glutathione that's so good for people. There are folks who get IVs with glutathione. I hear they're very expensive, and you kind of have a high and then it dissipates, as you can imagine. This is a great way to have a steady influence or infusion of glutathione and inexpensive as well. Now, when used with the Numi Neuro, which is the mango colored bottle with the Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. And we've heard a lot of folks with concerns with either after the long COVID or what they call the COVID fog. So this may help with that Numi Neuro, the mind, the memory, and the focus. When it's used with the blue, we saw, or the others saw such great results that the American Brain Council actually wrote what is apparently an endorsement on how well they were seeing, how good the products were doing. So these are all what we call swish and swallows. You can go to neumi.com, neumi.com, and Reagan, I don't see that on the screen anywhere, but neumi.com/TTSS. TTSS is crucial. You help us with that, and we can bless you. So neumi.com/TTSS, and there you go, Reagan. There's all 3 products, plus I believe it's a skincare that I have not tried yet, but I'm hearing good things from people who have, so I may need to try it myself. So there you go, Neumi, neumi.com/TTSS. Why? Because we want you feeling your best so that you are not worn out, you are not frazzled, you're not getting sick, but just to help you with a little bit of that immunity so that you can fight for your freedom and your families. All right, so I'm coming back with Dr. Peter Breggin. And in the beginning, with this whole pandemic, scandemic, fear campaign, I would say to people, I trust the great physician. I trust my maker who created me, and he has my best interest at heart. And I'll go when he calls me home, but I'm not going to panic and go what some man-made push, some man-made movement, some man-made campaign may be saying I need. I didn't have peace about it. And I stand even better in that because of what we're talking about today. But the Bible talks about Jesus being called the great physician. And so, we're told to take our needs to him, our prayer to him, and that he does care about our health. All right, so Dr. Peter Breggin, we've been talking a little bit earlier in a hearing just this month, last month. Dr. Peter McCullough was before the hearing in the Senate. Thank you, Senator Ron Johnson, who's been so good in standing on this. But he was warning those spike proteins stay in the system. In autopsies, they're seeing him in the heart, they're seeing him in the brain, and then they're seeing the spike proteins for about 8 to 9 months. Well, that's about the time when they tell people to get boosted again. So it would put those, if I understand it correctly, is the spike protein the lethal part? Is that what I'm hearing in these videos? Is that the lethal edge of the?
It's one of the lethal edges. It's the main lethal edge, the nanoparticles that are involved in the transfer of the mRNA through the bloodstream and so on also have toxic properties. It's just but the spike is the main thing.
Okay, the spike protein.
Yeah.
All right.
It causes small hemorrhages where it exists. It's as if it's like sharp pointed, and it causes bleeds to take place, and then it causes clots to come with it. It's very, very mostly a submicroscopic and generalized injury to the brain or wherever it is.
And you were talking about increased infections right before we went to break. I have a question. It's a medical question, and I didn't ask you about this before, but I know of several people who had infections just take over their bodies in a very quick manner in the recent history. And so I'm curious if these injections do something to the system that your immune system is so busy fighting, whether it's spike proteins or whatever the other chemicals are, that our body's just not able to fight other viruses or something that may come in. Because I'm hearing people who are having to have open heart surgeries because of infections, or organs are at risk because of infections. We never used to hear this, Dr. Breggin.
No.
Not in my world.
No, it's creating an immune deficiency syndrome. And you remember that from AIDS, that the exhaustion of the immune system allows for things to develop that would not appear before at all. For example, with the AIDS immune deficiency syndrome, you would get this Kaposi's tumors, and it varies, from the insult and different insults to the immune system. But we're getting an immune deficiency system. And one of my theories, actually I'm stealing, it's Ginger's theory. One of Ginger's theories is that that's a part of transhumanism too, that if they can ruin our immune systems in general enough, then they can get away with injecting more and more stuff into our bodies and to putting, different kinds of chips in and so on and so forth, and different kinds of mechanical things without worrying so much that we're going to have an immune response to it. I think that could be one of their long-term experiments that they're doing with this. As far as I know, actually, Ginger's the only one that's talked about that, and I've talked about it occasionally. We're going to be writing more about that. It's a disaster, and there are so many signs of disaster. Now, compare this to when they found out that another vaccine, which they were not supporting, basically more coming out of Europe, showed that it was causing a few deaths. They found 3 deaths and then 9 deaths, and they threw this vaccine off the market. Whereas they've got 10,000, these were reported deaths. They found 3 and then 9. When they got 3 reported deaths, they went into high gear. This is what they always have done, examination, and then they went ahead and they got 9 deaths and they stopped the vaccine. And it's in such stark contrast to the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, which were chosen by Bill Gates 10 years before the outbreak. When he announced the decade of the vaccine, he was pushing the mRNA vaccines. He was behind Moderna and Pfizer was working with communist China. People need to be told more often about that. Their subsidiaries were involved with the Chinese communist vaccine industry, which means they were helping the war effort in China, because vaccine work is always related to bioweaponry.
And so I think it was in your article that you were talking about how quickly we often see things pulled from the market with small numbers. You're mentioning 3, you're mentioning 9, but I believe it was in your article, in the first 90 days of one of these vaccines, they had,
yes,
was it 1,000 deaths?
That's another thing. The Pfizer vaccine, which was supposed to be kind of researched by with the FDA, but not really. There were never any real studies done by Pfizer or Moderna that really met the standards. But Pfizer had a global reporting system. You're so good, by the way. You help my brain move on,
I'm thinking, you're thinking, I wish I could remember everything you remember.
So in the first 90 days, Pfizer, without openly soliciting anything, had over 1,000 deaths reported to it on its global system. Didn't break them down into America versus other places, but it was a global kind of reporting system, over 1,000 deaths, and they hid them. Rather than go into full steam and stop it when they could. They could have stopped this onslaught within a few days, because certainly within a few days, they had more than 9 reports. So, and it took a legal case to uncover Pfizer's materials, because the FDA refused to give them to the court and didn't allow Pfizer, if they didn't want to give it to the court either. And then it was, of course, publicized finally as the Pfizer papers. Naomi
Wolf.
Naomi Wolf was deeply involved in that. And so you get the Pfizer papers coming out and documenting these 1,200 and some odd deaths in the first 90 days. And it goes nowhere. It just goes, psst. It's not anywhere in the news. It's not anywhere except on those people like you and me who are really looking at stuff. I want to say also to your audience, it's amazing. I sit here and here you are, you're this, you're the good Christian woman. And you're also one of the few people that is willing to talk about these issues. And I know God gives you strength. But folks, if you don't happen to watch a lot of TV and you're one of your favorite people, is Tamara Scott, you might think other people are talking about this. Well, off of your station, hardly anybody's talking about anything like this anywhere.
Well,
It's
and
not.
you were one of the first on this show, right? I mean, you broke several things on this show, whether it was
Yeah, I did. I've been for one thing, I love you and I value your show, but for the other, nobody was screaming for the data. And we're not at a point right now where we're going out and saying, "Hey, do you want to hear what we have to say to you?" We're publishing. We've got just, we do the work of an institute, the two of us.
do.
And so, we're not saying, "Okay, come rushing in media." We're doing what we can do and continuing to have a amazing longevity.
Every article you write, you and Ginger are good to put an incredible amount of footnotes there.
Yeah.
The summary, the sources are all there. And I'm looking at the clock, and goodness, we have to go to our third and final break here. Well, we should be going now, but I just want to say you talked about this when nobody else did. And so now they're all coming around and kind of admitting it. But in our latest article here on Substack, you have 1% serious adverse reactions are reported. Only 1%. As what you're saying, some people say less than 10% or only 10%.
Well, we have a specific study on the VAERS system, the best study put out by Harvard Health, and it showed that less than 1% of the serious adverse events from vaccines were being reported to VAERS. And this study was just before COVID. And COVID presented more serious problems because it was dangerous to report adverse events for doctors.
Yes.
Literally, they were being told by their medical societies, by their licensure boards, by the state board of examiners for the country, stop giving out misinformation about vaccines. They're wonderful, particularly the COVID.
All right,
and calling for punishment.
Yes, they were, from those doctors and health professionals who had the courage to stand and speak. We'll be right back with Dr. Peter Breggin. Stay tuned, The Tamara Scott Show.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And thanks for staying tuned with us. I am Tamara Scott, The Tamara Scott Show. Dr. Peter Breggin. Ginger Breggin is a great team, Breggin, and the great the information that they put out on Substack. You can find their articles there. In this article we're talking about right now, which I will have on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page as well, but it says the CDC, FDA's outrageous denial of a massive COVID vaccine death toll. And you say they haven't admitted a death yet to a vaccination, but even the British Medical Journal agrees that while other countries have acknowledged deaths that were likely or probably related to mRNA vaccination, the CDC, which says that it has reviewed nearly 20,000 preliminary reports on death using VAERS, far more than other countries, has not acknowledged a single death linked to mRNA vaccines. That's from the British Medical Journal. All right. So you were telling us their new push, they're not letting up. Their new push, they're coming after who with this next onslaught of vaccinations?
Well, the first people that the socialist progressives always want to kill are the old people. The old people are taking money in the form of Social Security. They're taking money in terms of the Medicare. And then there's all the multiple other, supports that do end up being required if you have an aging population. And by killing us, because that's me, I'm right just at the cusp of the most likely to be killed by a vaccine. I've never had one of these vaccines, and I don't take I don't take flu either, because flu is not a good vaccine. It doesn't help very much. It causes a lot of harm too. Other vaccines may be helpful. I think we need to study them without comparing bourbon to alcohol. We have to go back and restudy the vaccines by comparing them to placebos and by comparing them to each by looking at what happens when you give 10 of them at once. None of this has been looked at. When you give your baby all these vaccines, there's been no study of that. This is so crazy that it's just hard to grasp.
Breggin, while Dr. Breggin is talking about this, can you put up photo 6? And this is the death by age. And this is what we're seeing. Is this death by age of the vaccines? The one with the blue bars, please. The one with the blue graph that you had up first. Thank you. That
Yes,
one.
that's death by age of the vaccines.
So this is by vaccines. All right. So as you're saying
The
that
COVID vaccines.
the just the COVID vaccine. And so obviously the more elderly, the more at risk. And so you mentioned in the very beginning of your article, you mentioned a name that was a blast from the past. I'd forgot about this name, Ezekiel Emanuel. Remind us what he was trying to do under the Biden-Obama administration.
Well, he's quite famous as being a health advisor to those people and to being one of the more directly outspoken people. I think he said of himself he doesn't think he should live past 70, and then he giggles and says, "I probably change my mind when I get there." Um, this is really what these people think. And they don't mean it really for themselves, as he admits out of the corner of his mouth. They mean it statistically. They want to just get rid of this data that is showing a huge, costliness on the society. So rather than treasuring old people and showing a respect for life, and of course it goes along with abortion, it goes along with euthanasia, goes along with all the let's take a life as a response. I mean, what a response. Let's take a life. And that has infiltrated the entire deep state, the CIA, the State Department. They've all been involved in depopulation, influencing. The big banks have been involved with it, making birth control, a requirement in poorer nations. It's all about making the world safe for the elite, making the world a power structure. And it's always been like this. This is not new. This is what civilization was like when Jesus was born. Everywhere there were dominant empires that wanted to destroy people like Jesus and anybody else who said something that would threaten the power hierarchy.
Yeah. When I read it, I was reminded they were talking about useless eaters. And at the time, we were all just, quite stunned by someone even having the courage to say that out loud. But here we are, a couple of decades later, and bring us a scary pandemic, make people vulnerable so they'll be more malleable. And this is mind. And so now we're also dealing with
let me interrupt. This could get confusing, but do they have the graph from my study of the reports from to the CDC? And they're not preliminary reports. They are the full reports sent in as the British Medical Journal was incorrect. They're actual reports of death being sent in mostly by professionals into the CDC. And it's a graph that shows this huge red wall that
Breggin, I believe
goes
that's photo 5. Breggin, photo 5.
That's the photo to really see.
There you go. Dr. Breggin, That's the one you think makes a huge difference. That's 2021 is when we see the red line, the red wall.
Yeah.
And then 2022, as it's a little bit less.
No. Yeah. Don't worry about that. And there's another one, but this is the one. If you can't put it up, that's okay. What it is, folks, it just shows that you go from something like 170 reports in 2020 of death to the CDC to over 10,000 in 2021.
Yeah, Breggin,
170.
that's the right graph, Reagan, if you want to make sure we have it on the right camp. There you go. That's the right graph.
That's the right graph.
All right. Okay, time. Oh my goodness, time flies with you and Team Breggin. All right, closing thoughts for our viewers, Dr. Breggin. Another great article.
Yeah, the title of the article is New FDA Plans for the COVID Vaccines Will Kill Millions More.
Yeah,
That's
especially when you're targeting the elderly group, and it will be done.
It's just gonna. We could have another slaughter of 2 or 3 million, and the only reason why the reports go down over time is doctors don't keep reporting when they know something is known. Doctors don't take busy time out of their work to say, well, hey, I found out too it's killing people. No, it's the docs who see it first who say, oh my Lord, look at what we're finding. We got to take time out from our busy practices and try to remember how to send in a report to the CDC.
Right.
So folks, this is so hard to face, but humanity is facing evil for the first time in history because of a small band of human beings. We are learning about the depth of evil in a way we never had before. The social media has affected this. Scientific reports being put up without the journals has affected this. Books coming out has affected this. Self-publishing has affected this. More and more, we are getting to see the depth of evil of human beings. It's about human beings and their corruption. It's about what the Bible talks about. It's about what most good books talk about, novels and plays. It's about the human corruption. But what we're seeing more and more, and Ginger and I really had a breakthrough on that when we started looking at COVID and found out that the whole thing had been fully in plan 10 years earlier by Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, and the involvement of our Defense Department early on. I mean, just unbelievable evil going on.
You can go to COVID-19, Global Predators, We Are the Prey. You can go to wearetheprey.com or Breggin.com and find more information. I hate to cut you off, but we are out of time. You can go to Substack and see Ginger Breggin and Peter Breggin's articles on Substack as well. To everybody out there, you have to be equipped. You have to be informed so you know how to confront, how to stand, how to pray. And so we tell you to live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.